This is, of course, YouTube Live. It happens to be, of course, July the 14th, 2026. And today we're going to be talking about how to live an amazing life. So, Father, thank you today for what we're going to learn in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, you and I can actually have an amazing life. That's right. Now, there are 10 elements that I'm going to be talking about today that are going to help you to live an amazing life. The first one is remain calm. Now, that's not easy to do in our world. I saw a wonderful little video that went like this. There was a man who was getting anxious, he was getting fearful, and he was getting upset. And his wife looked at him and she said, "You know, I can help you with that." He said, "How do you do that?" She turned off the TV set. You see, we need to, of course, allow certain things in our lives. And then, of course, there are other things that we should, not allow in our lives. And basically, I know that for myself and for my dad, we were real news hounds. But one day, my dad, when was listening to the news, said, "I can't take any more of this." And he turned it off. And then all of a sudden, his demeanor changed immediately. Why? Because the very source of, causing the fear and anxiety was removed. Well, it's the same way with us. To stay calm, we need to remove certain elements from our lives. Those things that are causing us to be anxious and also as well causing us to lose our peace. Simply put, you and I can remain calm when we choose to remove certain things from our lives. And also, as well, understand that outside pressures do not necessarily have to destroy our inner peace. Another thing that will is important to have an amazing life is talk less. That's right. So often we feel that we need to explain ourselves. I watch those videos of what to do when you have a conversation with, for example, a law enforcement officer. They are often, engaging you in a conversation so that you will incriminate yourself. You know, Lawyers will tell you that when you are especially being involved with a police officer or a law enforcement officer, to talk less. It was David who said, "Put a watchman at the door of my mouth that I will not sin against you." I know that we feel that we need to tell our story. I know that we feel that we need to have our story heard, but maybe, just maybe, talk less. I love those movies from the West, where the protagonist, the hero, doesn't talk very much. So when he does talk, well, of course, people listen. Mark Lowry tells us the story of his dad. His mom, he said, was always talking, but he said, "My dad didn't say very much. But when my dad said something, you listened because what he said had substance and also meaning." Maybe just we should talk less and, show more in our lives. Also, as well, the third element to have an amazing life, besides being calm and talking less, is watch more. That's right. Keep your eyes open. Watch what's going on around you. Be careful to observe. We are to be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. That simply means observe more. It's amazing what you can learn when you just start watching. I love the story of these two old coots in the story that I was reading just recently. They were watching the world go by. They were observing what was happening around you. And when you are calm, when you talk less and you watch more, it's amazing what you see and it's amazing what you learn. So maybe instead of talking and getting anxious over things, watch what's going on. And I also understood something about observation. When you observe more, you see more, you understand more, and you also as well react less when you observe more. Also, as well, the third element is showing respect. You know, it was Jesus who said this. He said simply this: treat people the way that you would want to be treated. It's amazing when you are kind and show respect to people, how very quickly they will warm up to you, how that they will lower their guard and take off their mask. Why? Because you're showing them respect. They may not be worthy of respect, but you see, when you show respect, it's a reflection of who you are, not necessarily a sign of who they are. You are doing that because you, of course, are a person of respect. You are a person that loves. You are a person that is kind. And you are treating people the way that you would want to be treated. Whether they deserve it or not, it is an element of your character, not a reflection of theirs. Also, as well, move in silence. And that's very hard to do these days because there's so many things going on around us. There are world leaders, for example, right now that need to have everything centered on them. In North Korea, for example, the leader there has giant, posters of himself and statues of himself. It just shows that he is narcissistic and also, as well, wants all attention on him. The same thing is happening in the United States with the current president. He wants to have his name on everything. He wants everything to, of course, surround him and be a reflection of him. But that's really more about ego than it has to do with about anything else or pride. When you move in silence, when you do something, it resonates in your world. It makes people stand up and take notice because all of a sudden, when you move and when you say something, it has impact. That's really what it's all about, making an impact, touching people's lives in a way that makes them feel better, not bitter, and also makes them feel that you really care and that your opinion does matter. Also, as well, this is a very important one: keeping or making eye contact. It's amazing how many people these days do not make eye contact. Part of the problem is, and you see it everywhere you go, people's faces and attention is on their phone, on their tablet, or something else. You know what it says to someone when you don't make eye contact, especially when you're speaking to them? It's saying to them, you really don't care about my opinion. You really don't care about me as an individual. Many, many times people have said to me, I really love talking to you. And I say, why? They say, because you make eye contact. You make me feel as if what I have to say and who I am is special. And that is so very important when it comes to communication. When people know that you care, when people know that what they're saying is important, it builds relationship. It tears down walls instead of building walls. I've often had conversations with people who were looking other places. And the reason they were looking other places is because they were looking for someone who was a bigger, better deal. And they forgot the fact that when people feel feel that you're listening and have made eye contact, it makes them feel important and special. And remember, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. You know how you feel when you've been demeaned by somebody who's looking someplace else or looking for the bigger, better deal. don't do it to someone else, because that shows that you have not learned a very valuable lesson about human communication. Also, as well, to have a amazing life, manage your time better. I've often heard people say to me, I just don't have the time. Oh, yes, you do. You have all the time in the world. The problem is you're not managing your time well enough. Understand that one of the ways that you can really make an impact is say to yourself, what are the priorities of my life? What are the things that really are important to me? And then prioritize your life accordingly. I want to remind you that so many people today chase the what we would call the Canadian or the American dream. They say, you know what? I need a house, I need a car, I need this or that. And you know what happens? They end up chasing the wrong things and forget that, people are more important than things. Doing the things that make you happy are more important than, of course, trying to get that next gadget or that next, thing that you think is important. I want to tell you this: whatever you think is important, that is what you're going to spend your time on. And that's reality. A lot of people also waste a lot of time. There's lots of folks who watch videos, scroll on their tablet or on their devices, and they wonder where the time really went. That's because they haven't got the focus on the right thing. So manage your time well. Every day, look at, what you would like to accomplish, and then make a list and then accomplish it. And at the end of the day, when you're looking back at what you did, you'll say to yourself, that was really quite a productive day. And understand that, find out what's important and then follow through. Remember this: people are always more important than things. Remember that. Also, think before speaking. Yes, again, I alluded to the fact of what James said. James says, be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Basically, what he's saying is engage the brain before you actually speak. You know, taking that extra moment could actually save you from a lot of trouble. I know that, when someone hurts you or says the wrong thing, the first thing you want to do is zing them. The first thing you want to do is respond in anger. But you know what? Maybe, just maybe, take a moment. Our brains are marvelous things. They can save us from an element of danger, and also they can save us from doing the wrong thing at the wrong time or saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. And how do you do it? Just take a moment and think about what you're going to say. Think about the content of what you're going to say. Think about what you want to say and how you want to say it, because it can save you from a mountain of problems. Also, as well, here's one: avoid people with drama. I want to tell you, there are people out there who cause drama. One of my favorite sayings of our last prime minister is simply this: if you don't want drama, don't, elect a drama teacher. And for 10 years, our prime minister, of course, got us into a lot of troubles. That's what happened and is happening in the States. You see, the current president, for example, he is causing drama almost every single day. And so the whole world is, of course, in a tizzy because he himself makes everything about him. And so, you know, it's not easy to avoid people with drama, but you can see them coming. They're like a whirlwind. Everything has to be about them. Everything, causing all kinds of problems. And we all have people like that in our lives. And so the best thing to do is to avoid them if possible. I'm not saying that you can avoid them all. You know, sometimes those people are working with us. Sometimes they're people of our family. But the best thing to do is to try to avoid them as much as possible. That's important as well. And here's the last one: don't trade health for wealth. Now, this is very important because many people are pursuing that, if I just had more money, my life would be better. Well, I want to tell you something. They did a survey of those who won, the big one. And they discovered that 95% of those who won the big one ended up in a worse condition than when they found themselves. Let me tell you a couple of little stories to illustrate that. Years ago, when I was living in the North, there was a street person who won $500,000. He won Lotto 649. And when he got the check, he immediately headed south to a major city. And he basically blew the money on wine, women, and song. 3 months later, he was back in our northern community, and he was sitting at the in the local library. And I walked up to him. I said, "Hey, you're back." I said, "How were things?" He said, "Oh, they were wonderful," he said. I said, "So what did you do with your money?" He says, "I don't have any money anymore." I said, "You spent $500,000 in 3 months?" He said, "Oh, yeah." He says, "It's all gone." And I said, "Well, what are you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm back on the street." And I thought to myself, you were given, a real gift that you could have used for the rest of your life. But because he thought he was, doing great, he lost it all. There was another man that was living in a community in British Columbia where I was living. He had won Lotto 649 and he had won $14 million. He built himself a great big home on a wonderful piece of real estate in one of the beautiful valleys in British Columbia. Well, he was about a year and a half into this great big huge project. And then all of a sudden, you drove by and you saw a for sale sign on his land. And I learned via the grapevine that his wife, because he had become so obsessed with this project and with the money, she ended up leaving him, and he basically lost everything in the divorce. So basically, people will follow the idea that wealth and also precious possessions are going to give them security. Also, as well, understand that health is more important than wealth. Guard your health. Because I'll tell you this, and I've seen it many, many times. People will be pursuing wealth, and then all of a sudden they lose their health. And they wish that they had guarded their health instead of their wealth. Make sure that these are priorities in your life. And so let's look at them one more time. To live an amazing life, be calm, talk less, watch more, show respect, move in silence, make eye contact, manage your time better, think before you speak, avoid people with drama, and don't trade your health for wealth. There's lots of folks out there that are working hard, and then and this is a real problem these days. Most people will work all their lives to be able to retire. They spend 65 years chasing the dream of putting something aside. And then, and this is an important statistic, 6 out of every 10 people in the nation where I live, of Canada, their health has been destroyed by the time they're 65. And instead of enjoying their retirement, they end up being feeble. They end up having health problems. They end up living their lives less than they wanted to because they destroyed their health chasing after wealth. It's not worth it. So this is how you live an amazing life. So If you like what you've been hearing and seeing, of course, I encourage you to press the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, as well, I want to thank all those who have subscribed to my YouTube channel. If you haven't, check it out and do that. Also, as well, I want to remind you that every day I do daily shorts. That means that I give you little videos that will encourage and inspire you, give you something to think about. They're less than 1 minute long, but you may find what I have to say helpful and also insightful. My name is Robert Dean Steele. Thank you for joining me. Have yourself a great and godly day.